Hi you guys, welcome back to another video. I've started this little series where I'm just reading the essays that got me into various schools so that I can help you out, or maybe you're just interested in why I'm better than you. Just kidding. Today I will be reading the essays that got me into the Princeton University. There are other videos in this series that I read my essays for Brown, Columbia, USC. So you should definitely go and click on those when they pop up later. Yeah. So without further ado, let's get started. So the essays that Princeton has are varied. There's actually an extra essay that Princeton has you write, and it has to be different from any other essay you've written before. So you have to write a completely new essay based on one of the prompts that they give you. It's a pretty easy. I felt like it was a pretty easy one because I just basically used the essay. I wrote a new essay, but I basically wrote a new essay that I could have also maybe used for ComNap or something else if I really wanted to. But they have a couple of prompts that they have you use, and so I just centered mine around one of their prompts, and it was pretty easy for me. Using a favorite quotation from an essay or book you have read in the last 3 years as a starting point, tell us about an event or experience that helped you define one of your values or change how you approach the world. Please write the quotation, title, and author at the beginning of your essay. So you have around 200 to 650 words for this because it's basically like a ComNap essay. Or they have also a suggestion like it's 550 or something like that. You definitely want to have a fleshed out full essay, a complete thought, but don't overthink anything that you need to fill up the word count, or that you can have 1 or 2 paragraphs and that'll be it. You definitely want to be around that middle range, 400 to 600 words, and I think mine was nearing 500 words, around that. There's nothing like deep breaths after laughing that hard. Nothing in the world like a sore stomach for the right reasons. Stephen Chbosky, The Perks of Being a Wallflower. The Perks of Being a Wallflower is a book I listed as my favorite book throughout a lot of the college essays, and so I used one of the quotes from it to just as my starting point. So I looked up you have a couple quotes in mind, of course. But after that, you just kind of think about what story can best align to that, something that's happened in your life. And so, yeah, that's what I did. I was called. Initially, I stopped. It was one of those moments when time stands still on its head. The lights blur, and everything moves in slow motion. And in that same draw, when the universe has uprooted itself beneath your feet, all you can feel is the flesh of your face. All you can hear is the pounding of your chest and heart in a simultaneous rhythm. Doop doop, doop doop, doop doop. I was scared. I was always a shy little boy. I attached to adults for protection and my parents for love. Once my schooling began, I adapted, becoming more open and more social. This wasn't planned, but I came to learn I liked putting myself out there to the world, even if it meant facing the criticism. So why did I freeze? His words echoed behind me as he called out, and I could feel the eyes of the cafeteria turning towards me. I stood, contemplating what to do, and eventually I made up my mind.
I have to laugh.
I laughed. That's right. I laughed, and I laughed, and I laughed. I couldn't let words define me. Throughout my life, I've heard it all. I was black. I was short. This led to a lot of hate being thrown my way. Instead of letting it all get to me, I learned early on that there would be hundreds, maybe even thousands of people who tried to tear others apart. It was up to me to learn if I was going to let their words shape me into the person that I knew I wasn't. I wasn't what they called me. I was authentic. A quintessential component in reclaiming back my power was being honest with myself. If I knew who I was, what someone else thought of me was irrelevant. I also learned to laugh, to love. I couldn't take everything so serious. And if the worst thing that people could do was call me names, I knew I would turn out just fine. Ultimately, I had a goal. I wasn't going to sit here and try to prove what the haters thought of me to be wrong. I would much rather prove my support system right, the friends and family who have been with me from the get-go. With that in mind, I giggled all the way back to my seat. What someone thought of me paled in comparison to what I thought their words were. A joke. So, that was it was a pretty good essay. I talked about an instance where I was called a slur, a name. I was called a name. I talked about an instance where I was called a name, and I basically talked about my reaction to that instance was me laughing, and I talked about how I just learned to just get over it. Well, I learned to get over name calling, and I use that quote from The Perks of Being a Wallflower because it matches with me laughing and laughing for the right reasons. And so I'm really proud of that essay. A lot of suggestions that I would use for this essay, and even like a Common App or long essay question, is to start with a anecdote, a story that helps get them in tune. You want to have descriptive words and descriptive things. I had a lot on my piece of mine. I talked about the heart, and I talked about, I was really descriptive about the moment when time stands still and reverses itself and flips on his head and does tricks and flips and joins the circus and whatever else I said. So it was a pretty descriptive beginning, and it's definitely something that's supposed to hook the reader in. After you start on that story, you always want to, well, at least for me, I would want to branch out and talk about a past instance or experience that kind of shaped you before this moment, similar to this moment, and then you talk about how you've grown as a person since that very first instance. One thing you always want to do in these essays is leave room for growth. You don't want to sit here and act like, oh, I'm perfect now, and all the things I come from have made me into who I am today, and then I'm done. This is who I am. You always want to show that you still have room to grow because, you're young. You're 16, 17, 18, etc. There's no reason why you should have your life figured out right now, if that makes sense. So you always want to leave room for growth, act like, things could change in the next 10, 15 years, and you have a lot more things to learn before you're ready to save anyone, but I believe they can save the world. So yeah, please briefly elaborate on one of your extracurricular activities or work experiences that was particularly meaningful to you. You have around 150 words for this essay, so definitely choose a short instance, but something that can also get your point across. I absolutely had one of the laziest supervisors of all time working as a lifeguard. And get this, she was only 21. On one particular instance, she yelled at me and my co-workers in front of the patrons at the pool over, get this, not turning on the water slide for her. Trust, it was very hard not to retaliate. One of my biggest temptations was fighting fire back with fire, and boy was I heated. The belittlement eventually got to its boiling point, and I went to her supervisor. She lost her job, and I was bumped into the line for her promotion. While it may not be the happiest story, I was particularly proud of my professionalism. Keeping a cool head in the long run is where it led to my success, not losing it. This was an essay I actually ended up repeating. I think I used this for Stanford. I believe I used this essay for Stanford when they talked about describe a work experience or extracurricular experience. But I wrote it for here first. This is the one I actually ended up copying. Because Stanford was like the last application, one of the last applications I sent in for the early action deadline. There's not really much else I would say about this essay besides you really just want to talk about an instance, talk about a story that shows a different definition of your character. In this essay, I'm showing that I'm not afraid to step up to authority, but I also am professional and I can keep a level head in awkward situations or situations that I've been wrong in. I think that's a really important trait that you might want to show about yourself if that's something that pertains to you. If there's something else that pertains to you and you have a good story, go ahead and tell it. Just remember, you have a very short word count, so you just want to make sure it's a very short story, but you still get your point across. Please tell us how you have spent the last 2 summers or vacations between school years, including any jobs you have held. I spent the summer of 2018 participating in my last year of the Duke Tip Summer Program studies. My studies were in the classes Modern Medicine, Disease and Immunology. I particularly enjoyed the course because of how we learned, through Kahoot. Additionally, I spent a lot of time songwriting. I have at least an album worth of songs now. Summer 2019 was spent simultaneously taking the course in environmental science and working for the city of Houston as a lifeguard. I was excited to learn more in the summer, something I discovered I apparently liked doing. And at the same time, I used my job as a way to service others and earn some money from my personal experiences. I worked in a primarily Latinx community. I have become more determined to master Spanish and strengthen my versatility in servicing other people. I'm showing a way in this essay that I want to help other people, talking about learning Spanish and talking about how that can help me in a potential career path. So that's something I'm demonstrating. Also in this essay, it's pretty self-explanatory. Just want to explain what you've done over the summer. This is also an essay that I ended up using for Stanford later on, but Stanford's essay word count was much shorter, so I cut a lot of that out. But yeah, it's the same kind of points. You want to flesh out the parts about your personality that you definitely want to show. You can have a little joker aside if you have the word count that allows it. But yeah, these essays are pretty forgiving, and all you really have to do is just answer the question. Don't spend time trying to beef up your essay, but just really answer the question. And if you have time later, you can go back and add some more edits. The next essay for Princeton are all like rapid fire questions. You answer these pretty quickly, and that's it. You want to think about, if you were in an interview and they asked you these questions, what would you say? You don't have a lot of time to flesh it out and think about it. I actually did get an interview for Princeton, but they didn't ask any of this. But the point is, if you don't have an interview, the only thing that these admission officers have to go off of you is your essay. So you really want to show personality, personable, humor, etc. Anything you want to portray to them, but within your essay. Your favorite book and its author. The Perks of Being a Wallflower, Stephen Chbosky. Your favorite movie. Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Your favorite website. Watch Mojo. 2 adjectives your friends would use to describe you. Hilarious, photogenic. Let's give it up for Instagram. Your favorite recording. What a Heavenly Way to Die, Troye Sivan. So smooth, so serene. Your favorite keepsake or memento. The Duke Tip Turn books. I have so many messages and signatures on mine. Your favorite source of inspiration.
Nicki Minaj!
Just listen to Ganja Burn and all will be explained. Your favorite word. Mayhaps. People always think I meant to say perhaps, but I don't, and I love having them repeated. Your favorite line from a movie or book and its title.
I must say, I really felt quite distressed at not receiving an invitation.
You're not welcome here.
Oh dear. What an awkward situation.
Oh dear. What an awkward situation. Maleficent, 2014.
I really felt quite distressed at not receiving an invitation.
You weren't wanted.
Not what? Oh dear, what an awkward situation.
Let's talk about the iconic line. In my essays for these, you don't have a lot of words. You have about 35 characters, 35 words or something like that. And so in addition to answering my questions, for a couple of them, I added little adages or little asides afterwards. Like for the Troye Sivan song, I said, so smooth, so serene. That's kind of like a little joke. I'm not just answering the question, but I'm kind of explaining my response. When I said Ganja Burn, I said when I said Nicki Minaj, I said listen to Ganja Burn, all will be explained. So I offered a little bit of explanation besides the things. Of course, you don't have to do that. That's just something that I did, and I think really helped me because it showed, that I have a little bit more. It shows that I can articulate the idea very well. I have reasons for the things that I love, and I have reasons for the things that I do, and I can explain those very well. And it also gives a little bit more insight into the personality that I have and the interest that I have by just, having these things. I use Stephen Chbosky as my favorite book, and I end up using him as my favorite quote too. So obviously they show that I'm pretty centric and I love some things. And so, yeah. The Princeton essays are pretty straightforward and explanatory, but they're also really fun. I would definitely say you want to make sure that you are answering the question, and you want to also make sure that you are saying what you fully want to say. Don't rush it. Don't overthink these answers, especially those rapid fire ones. Then just relax, and because if it's meant to be, it will be. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, put those down in the comment section. Did this help you? I hope it did, and if it did, yeah. If it didn't, then watch another one, because that might. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Good morning.